Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SHC Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Sisk, and today we'll be featuring owner-operator of a performing arts studio, Brandon Marcus. In today's episode, you will witness a live voice lesson, learn about the competition in the arts, and hear about Brandon's administrative side as well as his performing side. Good morning, Mr. Brandon Marcus.
Good morning. How's it going?
I'm great. It's even better to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here. It's really cool to be back on campus again. Go Badgers.
Go Badgers. How long have you been in the performing arts?
Oh my gosh, my entire life. I started in kindergarten. I went to a small Christian school out in Saraland, and we were doing an end of the year program where no one would sing a specific line. And I just happened to be the one energetic kindergartner that was like, yeah, I'll make the sounds of a chicken. Sure.
So you were the star from that moment on.
I was the star from the moment on, and it kind of just, the theater bug bit me, and it has not released me since. And I've just, so that would be, I'd say I'm going on 30 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a legacy.
It's something, that's for sure.
So I feel like most kids either go the sports route or maybe the arts route, and you went arts fully.
So I went both, actually. Yeah, I played baseball, and I was a baseball kid, and did some running, did a little bit of tennis, but every time I had to make a decision of, do I want to go sports, do I want to go music, performing arts was right there. My dad made a really cool analogy to me as I was trying to decide what to do for college. Did I want to potentially play college ball, or did I want to go into the performing arts? And he said, in 10 years, you're going to be retiring from ball. In 10 years, you're just going to be getting started in your performing arts career. And it was one of those, you're right. And 10 years after, I was getting started, and there we go.
So on the actually performing side or the administrative side, which do you prefer more in the arts?
I will always prefer performing.
That's where the fun is.
Yes, there's nothing like walking onto a stage to an audience, a live audience. But because of where I'm at and everything right now, it's kind of the administrative has taken over lately. I haven't been on stage and other than, church and small things, I haven't been on stage in 5 years, and right before COVID. So it's about time, I think. I think you're reminding me that it's time to get back on stage.
Gotta get back up there.
Yeah.
What would you perform?
I really, really love musical theater. There's just something about the combination of singing, dancing, and acting. The last show I did was Godspell, the Stephen Schwartz show about parables, and I was lucky enough to play Judas. So
that's big time.
Yes, and actually my my co-star, as you could say, was Jesus. Jesus was he's also a Spring Hill alum.
Were you all in similar classes?
We were not. He was an undergrad when I was a grad student. But we did know each other because I know his parents from doing shows. So it was kind of cool he actually graduated. Yeah, he graduated during the run. So he graduated from Spring Hill while playing Jesus during the run of the show. So that was kind of cool to see.
How does one get recruited for a show like that?
Oh, you don't have to get recruited. You audition.
You
just audition. Yeah, there are tons of places you can audition in the area. Mobile has different community theaters. The Joe Jefferson Players in Midtown has been a staple in community theater forever. There's a small one out in Chickasaw. There are children's theaters all over the area. Just recently, I believe the Pact joined a partnership with Spring Hill. So they're now using the small theater. So, and then across the bay, there are multiple theaters you can go to.
And that's where yours is, across the bay.
Yep. The studio is across the bay. We are in Daphne on Friendship Road, so right around the corner from Target. Everyone seems to know where Target is in Daphne.
And it's a school in a sense.
Yes, we are. It is very much structured like a school. We do not put on productions. We basically send kids out to productions. So we are strictly educational. Everything we do is one-on-one educational, tailored directly to the student that we're working with. So let's say you come in for a lesson, you and I are going to work something specific. After you leave, the next student that comes in, I may shift 180 degrees. I may be working musical theater with you, and the next student wants to work on a classical art song. And so we're singing that, or we're working on an Italian aria, or maybe a student wants to work on the newest Taylor Swift song. So, not my favorite, but I'm still going to do it because that's what they want to work on.
What is the price structure of working with you?
Oh, goodness. You can't afford me. Don't worry. No, I'm kidding.
Sure it'd be, for my talents, you have to double the rate.
That's what I was thinking. No, we're very affordable. We start lessons at $140 a month. So, and that's for weekly lessons.
Okay.
And so if you break it down, it ends up being, I think, $35 a week, which for 30 minutes, which is not too bad for one-on-one instruction. And that always includes any sort of books or music or anything the student needs. If the student's working on acting, then, we make sure they have the monologues or the scripts they need. The only thing it doesn't include is if a student's doing piano or violin or guitar, we, of course, don't offer the instrument. You have to make sure you have the instrument yourself.
How would I bring a piano if I'm practicing piano?
Well, you'd have to have a big truck. But, we have pianos, of course, in the studio. You would need one at home to practice with.
Homework.
Yeah, because we do give homework. And it's not your typical, here's 10 pages you need to go read and write an essay. It's not like college homework. It's, hey, take this piece of music and mark your breaths where you need to breathe while you're singing. Things that normal people wouldn't think about, but, take care of this so we don't have to do this during your lesson. We can spend our lesson time working on technique or working on performance.
How long is a typical, holding of a breath on a song?
I prefer 4-measure phrases. So if you think that's 16 beats. So I think a 4-measure phrase is a pretty doable thing, especially for like a high schooler. But it varies based on the song. Yeah. If you're singing something that has a lot of pauses and rest, you can take a breath every 3 or 4 beats. We look at music. If you're singing, we read the words and we want, when we're singing it, to be the same as when we're speaking it. So if I'm talking to you and I start to do this, that's not natural, right?
Right.
We want to make sure we're phrasing everything through and taking breaths, usually at punctuation, usually at the written rest. If the composer's really good, they'll actually write in where they want you to take breaths. But you want singing to be as natural as speaking.
I think that's interesting, and the breaths is something that really has to be trained, because I run, so let's say I have decent cardio and lung capacity, but in mass I'll be singing and kind of get winded and have to, and then go back.
Yeah, I ran a little bit for a while. I hate it now. Can't stand to run. You hate it? Can't stand to run.
Running's the best thing ever.
Yeah, only if someone's chasing you. No.
That's a necessity, yeah.
No. But I think breathing it's a little different when you're running. You're not, just like we have an issue with dancers. Dancers are trained to breathe very high. Okay? Because they don't, when you're breathing, it's all based around the diaphragm. We work a lot on diaphragmatic breathing so that the diaphragm drops out of the way and allows room for the lungs to expand. And the lungs can't expand out really because of the ribs, right? They can't expand up because of the shoulders. They can't expand back because of the spine and the muscles connecting the ribs and the spine. So where else is the lungs going to go? It's got to go down. So when you're running, you're not thinking about that.
No.
You're thinking about, let me breathe up here. Same with dancers. So when we get dancers in that want to sing, we have to almost retrain them completely of, okay, you're breathing up here. That's great. Let's drop it down low. And so dancers don't want to breathe low because it makes them look fat. So when you expand, you're expanding out and your stomach is going to rise and expand. So I would guess probably the same for runners. One thing that works really well with little kids, like 5, 6, 7-year-olds, is to tell them that they have balloons in their knees and imagine blowing up the balloons in their knees with their breath. So that picture tells them to go low and think low. Of course, that's not going to work with a runner. I don't think, having balloons in your knees would really work while you're running. But next time you're in mass, just try to think, especially when you're standing, try to think really low breaths. Really low. So just take a deep breath and expand it out. See, you don't see that moving much on me at all. It's all low. So we'll get to work on that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, since you're a voice coach and I'm a horrible singer.
Ooh, do I get to judge you today?
Should we?
I think so. What do you want to sing for me?
I could sing a snippet of something.
Okay. Oh, you gonna pull something up for me?
I gotta get the lyrics.
Okay, good.
Wonderwall by Oasis.
Oh, wow. Haven't heard that one in a while.
Should I give it a shot?
Kind of excited. Let's go.
All right, so Through the Belly.
Mm-hmm.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way they do about you now.
Okay. So I like with all of my students to ask them to rate it themselves before we talk about it. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you think you lied on that?
In talent, I would give it a 0, but for myself, I'd give it a 5.
Okay. So I would disagree with you on that. On a talent, it's more than a 0. You actually maintained pitch. You stayed mostly within the key. You took, I would say your breaths were in proper places. What do you think you could do better?
Flow.
Okay, what do you mean by flow?
If you play the song and re-listen to me sing the song, it's not the same song. It's the same words.
Okay. So that goes back to the whole phrasing I was talking about of making the phrase like we're saying it, like we sing it.
Right.
Okay. Overall, if I were to have 5 minutes before you walked on stage for your premiere, okay, there's a couple things I would really quickly say. First off, your sound is just like your speaking voice is a bit up in the nose. It's a bit up in what we in the singing world call the mask. So where a mask sits right here. I think you could potentially, with some work, bring that sound down a little bit. So instead of eating up here, hear how it's kind of here, you're pulling it down. One way to really work on that is to actually close the nose off. And then every time you talk, you could feel when it starts to go up there. So if you're to close it off, actually, let's try that. You ready? Now, re-sing that for me and see if it goes into your nose or if it falls down into your mouth.
All right. Today is going to be the day that they're going to throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you got to do.
Okay. So what part of that did you feel? Did you feel it up in here? Or did you feel like it was dropping down?
A tad, but I felt it dropping down.
Okay. It was a different sound. If you go back and look and watch and listen.
That's going to be terrifying.
Do it. We're making everybody else do it, okay? Everyone who's watching right now is going to see it. So go back and listen to it. See the difference. I like to record with students, either video or just audio, so they can hear the difference. I actually have I've put together some compilation videos of longtime students of when they first started with me to where they are now. And they go back and listen. They're like, wow, I've come so far. I'm like, yeah, of course you have. And you're still a high schooler. You're still a 9th grader. Imagine where you're going to go now. But that's one thing I would, I'd suggest is let's get it out of the nasal or the nasal area and pull it down into the mask and get it. It'll help with enunciation.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that similar techniques for enunciation? Because for the podcast, and I've had an extra emphasis on slowing down when you're talking and
Yeah.
Clarity.
Okay. Yes. Yes and no. Diction is very important, and we do work through diction a lot. Um, Honestly, though, some acting classes would be where, like, if you were to come to the studio and say, "Hey, this is what I want to work on," and you told me that, I would not suggest voice. I'd suggest acting, because that would give you a chance to actually work on diction without worrying about the idea of music. Get what I'm saying? Yeah, instead of worrying
Yes.
about pitch and phrasing and notes, and it would give you the chance just to work on the speech quality.
How do you practice acting?
Oh, goodness, I'm the wrong person to ask about that.
So you've got different coaches at the
Oh,
studio?
yes, we have multiple faculty that work at the studio. Our acting coach, or our acting teacher, she's a SAG member, Screen Actors Guild, and she's also Actors Equity Association. So she's in both of those organizations. She's done movies and TV and film and commercials.
Wow.
And I think she did about 10 years on the Vegas Strip, headlining a show. And then at one point, I believe, was recruited by Disney. Did not actually work for Disney, I think. Miss Robin, if you're listening to this, I hope I'm telling it correctly. But she just closed last night a show at Theater 98 in Fairhope. She premiered there was a brand new show written that she starred as the lead role, first person to be the lead in the world. It was a brand new show, and she closed it last night. So, but she's the one that would work on that. And then we have piano teachers, we have guitar teachers, we have a dance teacher, stage makeup, a violin teacher who's the concert master for the Mobile Youth Symphony, and so it's other people. It's not just me doing it all. I don't have that much time. I wish.
Yeah. My mom played the violin when
Really?
she was younger. Yeah.
Okay.
I did not get any one lick of the talent.
Believe it or not, I think you're hitting on something there, that it does not necessarily transfer generationally. We have no clue where I got my musical side. I come from a very blue collar and medical world.
Mm-hmm.
That's, where my family is. And we have no clue where the music came from, where the talent came from. So,
Yeah.
But it's never too late. It's never too late for you to figure something out.
Maybe acting could help on the podcast.
It could. I think, that could be really cool to have. I'm sure there's someone from Spring Hill that has done some acting study. I'll have to think of who. I mean, I've of course taken acting classes and worked through acting in college and after, but I would never be the first to say, "Hey, let me help you with that." That's, you got to know your limits, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What is the goal of most students who work with you?
It's about 50-50 of students just wanting to be recreational and enjoying it, and it's their outlet. And then students wanting to pursue a career in this. Every year, students, once they hit high school, in about 10th grade, we start talking about college, of whether or not they want to pursue this as a career or not. And if they don't, how this can provide scholarships. And so they get an added bonus of college prep and college guidance from us, that we help them. We write them letters of recommendation. We try to help any way that we can. But a lot of our students do go into this. I mean, we've got students that worked with us that are, let's see, let me think of where all they are. Troy, Alabama, Auburn, Montevallo, UAB, UAH, feel like I'm missing somewhere. And coastal.
Do colleges compete against other colleges?
No, yes, no. So how do I answer that? There are kind of internal ratings and rankings
Okay.
that we I hold certain colleges higher than others. But a lot of voice teachers are members of the National Association of Teachers of Singing. It's called NATS. And it's just a large organization of like 5,000 teachers across the nation that are professional voice teachers. And we do, Alabama has a competition every February where anyone who's a NATS teacher can bring students to compete. And then there's a regional competition in March every year that is, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And then there's a national competition every summer. And so, like, most of the colleges have NATS teachers, and they go with their students. We went to the University of North Alabama in Florence this year, and we went up and competed. And of course, my high schoolers and middle schoolers and elementary students, they're not competing against the college kids. But it's kind of cool. They get to see the college kids and see what they're doing and go, one day that's me. And it gives a chance for the college teachers to see my students and see what they're doing. And several of them have been recruited just through that competition. And several of them have received full paid scholarships.
Wow.
Just through that competition of teachers seeing them. And so this year, we went to Florence and we had 12 students who placed. Then we went to regionals in Tuscaloosa, and we had 8 students who placed and advanced to nationals. And so that is going on right now. They're being first round is virtual, so they all submitted videos, and they're being judged. And then probably, honestly, by the time this podcast comes out, we'll know which of the students are moving on to go to Knoxville in June.
Are you going to travel with them to Knoxville?
Oh, yeah, you have to. It's one of the requirements is if you send students, you have to go. Because you also have to judge the students. You're judging other students while you're there. Since it's a teacher-run organization, the teachers are also judging.
Could that get biased if you're judging students that aren't your own?
No, because you don't judge any category that you have students in.
Okay.
Yeah, so because I have students in elementary, middle, and high, I don't judge those categories. I typically end up judging the collegiate musical theater. And then that usually means that the college teachers are judging my students, which is even better for them.
Yeah.
It gives the college teachers a better chance to go, okay, I've seen this child 3 years in a row, and this is how great they've become. Where will they be in 10 years when they're with me? But it's a really... To answer the original question, no, colleges don't really compete against each other, but we do have competitions where college programs can go and compete. And it's kind of inferred that, okay, the University of Mobile has won a ton over the past 3 years. Clearly they're doing something right. Or, the University of South Alabama has won classical for X amount of years. That clearly Dr. Rowell at South is doing something right. Yeah.
And you went to South for undergrad, right?
I did. I started at the University of Alabama for undergrad and had a great time, almost a little too great of a time there, and transferred home, came to South, finished at South, and then actually started graduate school at South. Did a semester at South and realized it was not the program I wanted. And so I called over to Spring Hill and said, hey, here's what I've got. Can I transfer over? No problem at all. Spring Hill became home in overnight. And it was graduated from here, and I'll get my doctorate at some point.
Nice.
But
what's your doctorate going to be in?
I'm thinking educational leadership. Because my master's was in leadership and ethics. In the Spring Hill had the MLA program in leadership and ethics, and now they have the MBA in leadership, which is super cool. I've looked at it, and it's basically the same exact thing. I love that Spring Hill still got that, but I would want a leadership or a leadership doctorate because it's more administrative. And I feel like that's where I lack. I lack the administrative qualities. Still, even after 11 years of owning a studio, that's something they don't teach in music school. That's even, I think, something they don't really teach in business school is, how to run a business properly. Yes, you take accounting, but how do you apply that in the real world? Yeah.
I'd say a lot of trial and error for sure.
That's exactly what it's been. It's been learning what works and what doesn't work, and when it doesn't work, how do you get through it? I would highly suggest anyone that has any dreams of running a business one day or opening their own business to just get out there and try it. Because Spring Hill taught me a lot in terms of leadership and ethics and business. But until I was really just going at it and saying, okay, I either have to figure this out or I'm not eating this week. That's when
you'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Coming out of college, did you keep performing or did you just want to get into the studio?
I did both. Coming out of, I opened the studio straight out of undergrad. I was working with a local children's theater not too far from here. Music directing for them and choreographing shows and doing costumes and pretty much everything for them. And the owner encouraged me to start teaching voice, and I did, and I fell in love with it. And so I started there and then branched out and became what I am now. But I continued performing. I actually ended up auditioning for a replacement company of a Broadway show that's still open. They had just recently opened and were looking for the first round of replacements. So when actors finish out their contracts, they bring in replacements to take over those roles. And I made it pretty far into that audition. I mean, even I was flown up to New York and auditioned there and ended up actually dropping out of it because of the show that it was. I didn't feel right doing the show because it was not exactly an appropriate show that I could invite students to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I regret that. It made me not want to audition anymore for bigger things. So I stuck to community theater, did a ton of shows around here. And then I kind of just, life took over. Unfortunately, COVID
usually happens.
Yeah. COVID hit and I kind of had to just go, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to focus on my business or am I going to perform? I can't really do both. So now, church is my performance outlet.
Does the previous shows you do stick with you on your resume?
Oh, absolutely.
Apply for more?
Absolutely. Yeah. My resume, a performance resume is not exactly like a business resume or a work resume. I've got shows all the way back to, actually, I probably need to clean this up, but I think I've got shows all the way back to high school on my resume.
So a business resume that can be seen on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Where do you put your performing resume?
I believe it's on my website right now. I believe I have that. I know I don't think my CV may be on LinkedIn. And my performance resume is on my website. But typically I just take it into auditions with me. If I print that out and take it into auditions with me, I have headshots that, you take your headshot and if you're really professional, you have your resume printed on the back of your headshot where they just flip it over and look. But around here with the number of auditions that you can do, and there's not much, you don't really do that. You just have headshots printed and then you take in a resume with you. I'm lucky enough to be great friends with a headshot photographer here in Mobile that she shoots most of my students. And anytime I need to update headshots, I just give her a call and she's fabulous.
That's awesome. Yeah. Photography is one thing I'm kind of getting into through the podcast and having to learn about SD cards and all that. So.
Yeah, photography it's something I've never been good at for some reason. If you give me the photo, I can edit it. I can make it look great. I can integrate it into media. I don't have the eye for photography. It takes a special eye.
It does.
To make it look intentional, but not intentional. You know what I mean?
Certainly.
It's got to look a certain way, but not like you tried too hard. And there are a lot of photographers that you can tell they're trying way too hard. But Tony Riles, who shoots all of my headshots, hers just come out natural for some reason. I think it's all about the way that you work with your subject. So if you're shooting people, are they comfortable?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It comes out on film. I tell my students all the time, a photograph shows you what everybody else sees. So if you're looking at a photograph of you performing and you don't like something that you see, everyone saw that. Mm-hmm. So how do you fix that?
How real is stage fright?
Oh, it's absolutely real. It's so real. Just recently in March, when I was in Tuscaloosa, I got lucky enough to play piano for one of our other teacher students who made it into finals. I got to play piano for him on the stage in 2,000 seat auditorium, and he's third grade. Wow. Yeah, and having a third grader having to step onto a giant stage with a pipe organ that makes the pipe organ in the chapel look like it's a little circus toy.
Goodness.
Yeah, and he looked onto the stage and he froze. He did not want to go onto stage. I literally had to push him onto stage. I had to walk behind him, put a hand, and say, "All right, let's go." And I pushed him onto stage, and his mom has thanked me since. But it's so real. I still get nervous on stage, and I've been on stage my entire life. But I've always said that if I continue to get nervous, that means I care about it. The moment that I am no longer nervous when I'm walking onto stage, then I clearly don't care. And that's when I need to stop. It's probably, I would guess, the same with running. It's
it is.
Adrenaline.
It is. Before every race, it's like, kind of overthinking it sometimes, but it's like, there's no variables. I mean, I've done this for practice, the same race. So, and then once you're rolling in.
Exactly. When you're in a show, you've rehearsed it so much that you can do it in your sleep. Yet we still overthink it, and we still are worried because we're human. It's the same with running. You've ran that circular track how many times in your life?
Too many.
Too many, especially running. It's way too many. But you've done it all your life, so why are we overthinking it? But nerves are good. Nerves are not a bad thing. I try to make sure that students know that nerves mean you care. The second you stop being nervous, the second you stop caring is the second you should stop doing something.
A thing I heard my track coach say this weekend is you want your confidence to outweigh your nervousness.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. I'd add something. You want your confidence and your preparedness to outweigh. Because I try to make sure everybody knows there's a clear difference between being confident and being cocky. Confidence will get you everywhere. Cocky will get you nowhere. And I have students who are cocky instead of confident, and they learn really quickly that, hey, that's not going to win it for you.
What does cockiness look like in the acting space?
Oh, gosh, what have I not seen? Students walking in going, I can do this, or I could have done that better. Or I have one student in mind that won or lost a couple competitions and constantly said, well, if I would have done that, I would have gotten it. Or if I would have sung that song, I would have done it better and I would have won. Okay, we'll sing that song and win. Let's see you do it. Put your money where your mouth is. And I believe in tough love. My students and the parents will tell you that I'm the most caring and loving teacher they'll probably ever meet. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you the truth. And if
that's needed, it's a waste of money if not.
Correct. I want to treat students the way that someone would have treated me. That's why I opened the studio, is because there was nothing like it when I was growing up. There was nowhere training kids. I kind of had to just bounce from place to place and theater to theater and learn what I could before I got to college. But cocky is not, it's not pretty. And cocky does not make anyone want to befriend you or be around you.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence, on the other hand, sure, be confident all you want. Be confident that you know your stuff and then go show it.
I think it just plays back to the practice. The more practice you have, then that's added validity for you and that you can do it.
Correct. I would agree with that 100%.
For the teachers that also teach different subjects in your studio, how does the pay work for them? Are they on salary from you, or are they paid per
No,
session?
they are, so they're paid per session. The parents pay us and we pay them. A lot of studios in the performing arts world allow teachers to come in and use the space, and then they pay to rent that space. So I kind of cut out that middle work of, I don't need you to pay to use the space. They're on hourly, but it's a fixed hourly if they know how much they make per hour. And it's a rather high rate. But they also, if a student does not show up and they don't have to teach, they still get paid. They get a partial pay for, say, you don't show up to your 30-minute lesson, you don't let us know that you're not coming. The parent still pays for that lesson, and the teacher still gets paid for being there.
You just take a percentage of the teacher's money? Gotcha.
Yep, we just take a percentage of the tuition. Truth be told, the amount that I take from the top of tuition barely pays for utilities and space. I definitely may lose money if you look at it. I lose money in a way, but I want to make sure that I'm paying teachers the best that I can pay them. There are a lot of people out there who think performing arts, like education, should not get paid as well as it does. Unfortunately, teachers in the school systems barely get paid here in Alabama.
Same in Texas. My mom teaches second grade.
Yeah.
But teachers, police, firefighters, they're doing God's work for us.
They are, and they're not getting paid like they should. And so a lot of our teachers have taught in the school system. I myself taught in the school system, and the pay was not anywhere near livable. And so several of our teachers have retired, and they chose to come out of retirement to teach for us. So I want to make sure it's worth their time and worth their money. And our lowest paid teacher makes $40 an hour. So that's kind of worth it to show up and teach a couple lessons, especially things that they love.
Exactly.
Our teachers love teaching what they teach. And that's evident when you walk into the studio and you just walk by the different studios where they're teaching and you're hearing all this stuff. Sometimes if I have a student not show up and I have free time, I just walk around the studio and listen. And I have the biggest smile on my face because I'm hearing kids do what they love and teachers do what they love and parents standing by doors listening and, they're smiling because they're hearing great things. It's a dream come true, honestly. I never thought, even when I was here on campus, that this is where I would be. And I wouldn't change it one bit.
Do you have any goals for the future?
No goals at all. None whatsoever. I got here with no goals. I mean, continue growing the studio. I'm in the process of opening a nonprofit in Baldwin County to help offset the cost of performing arts lessons for students, especially students who are coming from low income or low represented communities. So hopefully by the end of May, I'll have that nonprofit turned in and maybe approved. We'll see.
How is it aimed to help those people?
So with nonprofit status, you can apply for grants.
Okay, so you just funnel that money back.
Exactly. So there are so many grants that I could be applying for, and I've been told I would get. I mean, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars worth of grants just in our state that need to be used, that are not being used. The Alabama Arts Alliance has grants. I mean, I'm thinking through, they have grants up to $100,000 that I could be applying for, that then students would either apply for through us, or they'd submit a scholarship request, or we'd have auditions and we could award those. And then we would directly pay either the studio or another performing arts, because it would not just benefit the studio. I want it to benefit, if a student wants to take voice lessons in Orange Beach, that's fine. We're going to pay for that for you. We're going to get that for you. It's not going to be you are required to come to the studio. Yeah.
Do you feel it's a big drawback for students getting into the space? Is the money required?
It's not cheap. You know, I say $140 a month is doable. Mm-hmm. But if you have 3 kids and you're paying $140 a month, which we give discounts for multiple lessons or for siblings, but it's not cheap. Mm-hmm. It's expensive. And I don't think any student who really, truly wants to do this should have a barrier, and finance should not be a barrier at all. So anything I can do, this has been something that's been on my heart and my mind for a while now, of how can I continue to help students, especially those who can't afford it. Just straight out of my mind right now, I have a personal student who is she's the daughter of a single mom. And that single mom is from a minority category. And that single mom works her butt off. And if I could just be like, okay, here's a scholarship. Don't worry about this anymore. Take that money and do something nice. That would help me, but it would help them too.
Surely.
So that's a big goal, is getting that completed and finished. One day I would love to have a studio in another city. You know, I don't think I'd put a studio in Mobile. Mobile has enough places, and I have people that I can refer kids to in Mobile. I'd love to have a New Orleans studio. A big dream would be Atlanta or Orlando. Have a studio in those areas where I could really tap into a different subset of students.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to keep up with it and follow.
Yeah.
Let me know if there's anything I can do with the nonprofit.
Yeah, certainly will. And if we need a running coach, I'll let you know.
Yep. And for acting, we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I bet there's something we can help with.
I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And, giving me knowledge into the performing industry and giving me some coaching.
Yeah, no problem. I love what you're doing with this. I think it brings so much to Spring Hill. And I'm really excited to see where it goes for you.
Thank you. Me too.
Of course.
I would like to personally thank everyone who tuned into this episode of the SHC Division of Business podcast. Our aim is to give young professionals insight into their desired field or potential job of choice. If you gain anything from this or have any compassion whatsoever, please share with someone you see fit.